Hey guys, what is going on? So let's just get back into our Monster Slayer photo composite. And since last time, I did add a little bit more scar tissue to her face and even on her chest, but I just did it the same way as I did it the last time, so you didn't miss much. So I think the first thing I want to do tonight is, as you can see down here, I still have a little bit of the original stock photo, that weird kind of fishnet scarf thing she was wearing. So I want to get rid of that, and I want to continue over the belt so it wraps around all the way to the edge of her torso. And also, let me just go into my top layer, go to my top base layer, this black tank top thing, and I'm going to mask that off. And I'm going to get rid of this entire section down here, because I think down here I'm just going to show, like underneath the vest here, I'm just going to show some of her bare stomach. You know, just add a little bit of sex appeal to it. Nothing wrong with that. But first, let me grab a stock photo of a belt so I can finish off that section down there. So this one should work plenty good for what we need. All right, so let's go down here and paste that in. Way too big, of course. And I'm just gonna distort it to line up with the other belt. It's not going to line up perfectly or look perfect, but it'll be good enough for what we need. So let's darken that whole thing up. And just erase that edge so it blends a little better. And drag it over more. Okay, I think that should suffice for our belt. Now let's add in her stomach. So where's that picture? I got a picture right here for that. And she's got some nice abs, so we'll use hers. And all I need is like a very general selection. I'm not going to use a pen tool or anything because you're not going to see any of the edges. So there's no need to waste time with the pen tool cutting it all out. So I'm going to paste that in. Doesn't match exactly to her pose, but you're not going to see very much of it, so it'll be perfectly fine. And I can just warp it to generally where I want it. And let's adjust that color a little bit to make it match the rest. So let's put a mask on our abs layer, and let's get rid of this section here we don't need, and just blend right underneath the line of her pants and get rid of this section. All right, so now let's start painting in some shadows over her abs because they're a little too light. There's gonna be a lot of shadow casted by the vest, so let's do that next. So let's go back to our vest. Let's make a new layer up here and call it stomach shadows. And let's take a sample out of her abs and just start painting in, turn the opacity down, and let's start painting some shadows. In fact, her entire abs section could probably be darkened because it's a little light right now. Okay, I think that will work for now. And next I want to work on her boots some. Because right now the top of her boots look a little too modern, and I want to get rid of that. I'm not going for any specific time period as far as like the look of her, but I don't like the top of these boots, so I'm gonna replace those with something else. So let me just grab those photos. So I got these like old swashbuckler boots with this like a folded over top. Not sure what you call that. It's like a cuff, but the boot cuff. So we're gonna grab that and we're gonna put those over the more modern tops on her boots. So paste in the first one. And let's grab that other one. I think I was gonna use, yeah, this picture. And select that. And I think we should flip that. And again, we're going to desaturate it. And stick it right about there so it covers that other top I don't like. But we need to darken that up because it's too light right now. And let's do a color overlay out of the bottom part of the boot so it matches. And let's use burn to darken it up a little more. All right, so let's go to that boot and make a new layer. And I think put it on darken. And let's paint some shadows where that boot overlaps this boot. Actually, let's do multiply. And let's zoom out and do the same thing over here. And do a color overlay from the boot. All right. And again, let's darken up the boot where that overlaps. All right, so yeah, I think that looks better than the other boots we had before. So speaking of these like big like rolled over cuffs on the boots, let's cut out the cuff on the jacket and just make the whole thing a little bigger and flared out. So I'm gonna path out just that cuff. All right, so I just gotta find my left sleeve, and there it is, left sleeve. That is why we label layers, so we can find them easy. And I'm just gonna copy that and paste that. And I'm gonna duplicate those adjustments so it all matches up. All right, so let's distort that and do something like this. This is what I was referring to if you weren't sure what I meant. But I need to finish the cuff behind her sleeve, so I'm gonna make a new layer. And I'm just gonna take a sample out of the dark of the sleeve. And I'm just gonna paint that in. Turn up the hardness. Just follow that curve up so it all matches. And then I'm gonna burn that to make it darker inside. I'm sorry if you're hearing a lot of background noise. I'm filming a little earlier tonight, so you can hear more cars and trucks driving on the highway nearby. And planes taking off. But I'm filming a little earlier tonight because my last video, if you couldn't tell by watching it, I was pretty tired. I was actually just editing some of that video right before I started filming this, and just, wow, yeah. I look tired in that video, so if I look a little off, that's why. Alright, that looks good for our cuff, but I need to darken up the area of the sleeve right here and here where the cuff is kind of overlapping. So I'll take a sample out of the dark and just paint over the cuff. Alright. I think that works good. I like that. So let's do that same for this cuff over here. Paste that over. Make that bigger. And again, like we did before, we're going to duplicate those adjustments so it matches. And clip them. And like we did before, I'm just going to paint in the back of the jacket. And I'm going to burn that to make it a lot darker. Alright, cool. So I just think that adds a little more interesting detail to our jacket. Alright, so let's add in some hair. And I originally was going to give her just like dark brown hair because the hair on the face we use has dark brown hair. But I was thinking because our vampire has dark brown hair, maybe we'll give her like really like platinum blonde, almost white hair. I think that'll be a nice contrast between the two. So let's lay all that in next. So let's grab our hair pictures. I got this one, and I got this one. And I intentionally picked pictures where they're on black backgrounds because clipping out blonde hair on a dark background will just make things so much easier on me. So I'm going to use this hair for like the hairline in the front part, and I'm going to use this hair for like back hair flowing away from her. So let's do this section first. I'm going to start off just by generally cutting out what I want. And obviously I'm not going to cut out all this nonsense with the pen tool. That's just not possible. So I'm just going to get the basic chunks with the pen tool that I want. And I'm just going to cut off like right in the middle of the forehead so we can blend this forehead to the other woman's forehead. That'll just make things easier. I'm not sure how much I want down here. I don't want all this. I think I just want this section, so I'm going to have to mask that off separately later. Alright, so let's select that first. And now let's just get a general selection of what I want. So I want like that, up into there, and like down here, and also like all this stuff over here. Alright, let's work with that for now. So let's go to our channels, and let's see. Probably gonna be red. Not blue, not green. Yep, it's red. When you're doing blonde hair, it's usually the red channel that you want. All right, pump our blacks up, pump our whites up. Now we'll go into dodge, on highlights. Actually, you know what? Let's do that a different way. Let's take a brush and put it on overlay, and let's paint with white. Yeah, that's working out a lot better. And now let's paint with black on overlay to darken areas up. I don't want. All right, let's select that and see how that looks. So let's try doing a color overlay on that. Take a sample out of the hair and put that on lighten, because I want to get rid of all that black. See, I turned that off and you got some black edges, but lighten will just get rid of all that for me. Actually, you know what? I think I want to do instead. Let me make a new layer and clip that to that. Because I wasn't finding one single color that looked good throughout it, so I'm just going to paint in that lighten layer differently depending on the hair around it, because some colors worked better depending on the position of the hair and the highlights. Alright, yeah, that looks better. So let's go into that hair layer we clipped out with the pen tool. And I'm gonna just blend that a little bit. Alright, so I think that looks good. So I'm actually gonna merge that. Alright, so let's bring that in. Scale that down a bunch. Want it right about there. And I'm going to darken up her forehead skin a little bit. It'll just make it easier to blend in with this other one. I want to keep her hair pretty light, but I do need to darken up her skin. All right, so let's call that hair. Let's call that hair 1, and let's make that all into one new group. Call it hair. So I'm gonna need to match this new hairline to the old hairline, so it'll all blend together well. And it doesn't look too far off right now, so it might not take too much effort to do that. So let's start masking that off and see just how close we are as far as matching the heads and the hairlines. And I'm going to burn that hairline a little more. Just so we can get a better blend between the two foreheads. Just gonna move all that in just a little bit more. So let's just try to blend those two together even better, because there's still too much of a visible line from one to the other, and we do not want that. Alright, that looks pretty decent. We still got to worry about kind of down here and down here, about how that blends in with everything else, but other than that, that's looking pretty good. And to sell it even more, I can take a sample out of her hair, the white hair, and just kind of maybe paint in some hairs just to help with that transition with a more believable hairline. And I'll call that layer hairs because I'll be going back to it and painting in more hairs later. Alright, but I see an issue on her face. Let me turn that off. Like, she has a highlight. There's light coming in from the side of her face here. So she's got a little bit of rim lighting on her face. But now her face is mostly covered up from the hair. So we want to get rid of that highlight. So let's make a new layer and put that on darken. Take a sample out of the dark. I'm just going to paint out that highlight. And probably just darken that whole area in general, because now it's going to be more in shadows from her hair being right there. And maybe just paint in a couple of hairs over that section. And I'm just kind of noticing now the shape of the back of the head with the hair doesn't quite match up with the shape, how the shape would be with this face. I need to bring this area out a little more. It's a little too squished on this side. So I'm gonna go into liquify. I'm just gonna push out this area here. So it's a little more like that. So let's do that next. Let's get a brush size about like that. Let's just start pushing out that hair. Maybe a little bit smaller. All right, let's see how that looks. That might be good. All right, so let's add in more hair. Let's go back to that second hair picture we had. And speaking of, let me minimize that. And let's go to this one. And I think I'm just gonna grab this whole section here. I might use this section too, but I think I'll get that separately. So go to our red channel. Turn up the darks, turn up the lights. And let's try that, see how that looks. So let's copy and paste that. And we got some dark around our edges, but we can get rid of that later. So this should be good. And I want to flip that horizontal. Let's brighten that up a bunch. It'll take a little work to get these two pieces of hair to work together, but we'll get it. Let's put a mask on that so you can't see that on her forehead there. I'm trying to think of what would be the best way to blend it. Just to put this on top and mask this one off, or to put it on the bottom and mask the other one off. I'm not sure. Well, let's mess around a little bit. Like, that doesn't look bad. That doesn't look bad at all. That might be the way to go. That does blend together fairly decently, actually. Like, this section kind of just flows into that section. That's good. It's always good when things work out like that, because they don't always. They more often than not, they don't, unfortunately. Let's try something. Let's put that on top. Let's duplicate this one, put it on top. Maybe put that on like lighten. You know what, I kind of like that. Actually, you know what, let's clip it to that layer. Yeah, I like that. That adds a little more depth to it. I'm not sure how I feel about all this hair kind of swooping like that in that one direction. Or if I want it more random. But I think for now, I'll leave that side as is. Alright, so this side of the hair definitely needs more work. It definitely needs more blending, and probably going to paint some hairs in by hand, but let's move on to this side. And I'm hoping I can just use this other section down here for this side. I'm hoping I can do something with this section on that side. So let's just grab this and see what we can do. And bring that right in here. Let's call that hair 3. And we don't want a face growing out of the side of her head, so we're gonna have to back that up a little bit. Let's see, can I get this hair to sort of blend in with that? You know, maybe something like that would be fine. Maybe I can. Maybe it's all gonna work out. That looks like that might kind of work, right? I think so. And let's warp this a bunch. I can kind of line these two sections up, and that might work out well. But let's get rid of that second face. See if I paint in some hairs here. That should help the blend. That's too much. Yeah, when you paint in hairs, you don't want it on 100%. That's a little too much. So let's fade some of that back. That does help a little bit. All right, so that's looking better. I think this is still looking a little clunky here. Our hair definitely isn't done, but it looks pretty good. We got a very good start. And I might want to add like more swoops of hair back here, so it's not like all in this one big point, like this teardrop point here. I'm still not sure if I want to keep that or not, but I think I'm gonna stop right there. I did want to get a few more things done tonight in this session, but I kind of ran a little long, so I don't want to go too long. I don't want to make this video too crazy long, so let's just end it right there. So thanks for watching and take care.